Hey guys, welcome back to another installment of the study of the Cold War. This section called the Cold War and Kennedy. We're going to focus here specifically on the Cuban Missile Crisis. In our last study, we talked about the Bay of Pigs and how disastrous it was and how ineffective it was. There's a lot of conspiracies that exist about Kennedy's assassination. We won't spend a lot of time on that, but there are, again, many conspiracies. One, the failure of Kennedy to do anything at the Bay of Pigs could have led to someone who wanted more aggressive action taken against Castro to assassinate him. And now we go into the Cuban Missile Crisis with Cuba receiving nuclear assistance from the Soviet Union. And there are many people who believe that even though Kennedy's show of force against the Russians and them sending missiles to Cuba, that maybe it just wasn't enough, and so they wanted someone in office who would push that so-called red button. And so maybe that's possibly why Kennedy was assassinated. Tons of conspiracies out there. Again, we're not going to get too much into that, but let's go talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis. With the failure of the Bay of Pigs, the relationship between Russia and Cuba is solidified. Here you see some photos of Castro and Nikita Khrushchev buddying it up. Apparently, Khrushchev feels very confident to start sending all kinds of military weapons, not just tanks and machine guns, but nuclear weapons and long-range missiles to Cuba, and he does so throughout the summer of 1962. Our planes pick up on all kinds of traffic between between Russia and Cuba, and so we start to spy on Cuba and learn of their placement. President Kennedy issues a warning that we're not going to tolerate it, but needless to say, Russia continues to send it. Again, the spy planes flying over the Caribbean Ocean and of Cuba are taking photos of missile launch sites. These missiles can reach the United States in a matter of minutes. Here's one such photo. You can pause the video as you need to take a look at it. I'm going to move through here pretty quickly. This photo, a little bit clearer, is taken from the San Cristobal region of Cuba. Again, more missile installations, ways to move the missiles around. And then here's a little diagram showing you the general placement of missiles in Cuba, and then essentially how they would be used and how quickly they could reach major U.S. cities, how far they are from major U.S. cities in the United States. So decision time comes to October 22nd, 1962. Kennedy informs the United States people that Soviet has placed missiles on the island of Cuba, that an attack is within minutes or could reach United States soil within minutes, and he made it clear that any attack would trigger an all-out attack against any part of the Soviet Union, including Russia itself. So any of the satellite nations, any allied nation that Russia wasn't allied with, I should say, like North Korea or China or Cuba, any attack from Cuba means an all-out war against any and all Soviet allies. That's Kennedy's statement, and 2 days later he enacts a naval quarantine on any ship coming into Cuba from the Soviet Union. Naval quarantine, simply a line of ships that are ready to attack should any foreign ship enter waters too close to Cuba. I've placed on Blackboard a really good video. It's 50 minutes long, but it's a really good video of all the days leading up to that naval quarantine. There's also a really good movie, I think it's called 13 Days, that is pretty intense. Really good movie that emphasizes this Cuban Missile Crisis. Well, as the cartoon shows, it's a big arm wrestling match between Nikita Khrushchev and John F. Kennedy, and Khrushchev backs down. The quarantine works. Khrushchev is not ready for a war, so he has the Soviet ships turn around and head back to Cuba. Also, Khrushchev offers to remove any and all missiles that had already been sent and in place in Cuba. And as part of the U.S. agreement of this, U.S. also agrees to secretly remove missiles from Turkey, and makes Russia agree, or makes the Soviet Union agree, not to let anyone know about this move. So we had nuclear missiles set up in Turkey as part of our containment policy, and those were aimed at Moscow. And so Khrushchev planned. He says he'll take out the missiles off of Cuba, but Kennedy, you need to take the missiles off of Turkey, and so they agree to do that. So this action severely damages Khrushchev's prestige in the Soviet Union. He's seen as weak because he backed down to Kennedy. Kennedy doesn't escape his criticism either. The declaration of going all-out war against the Soviet Union if an attack comes from Cuba is seen as brinkmanship, and the United States people thought we had moved past that with his flexible response policy. Others believed, and again, here's your conspiracy theory, that Kennedy passed up on an opportunity to knock out Castro. And again, so a lot of people who wanted that action to happen, and this is where the organized crime families come into play. You know, they were pretty successful with the casinos in Cuba before Castro's takeover, and so maybe they want to see that revival of that revenue coming into their homes and coming into their pockets. And so the opportunity to remove Castro has passed, so maybe they want someone in office who would do that. Anyhow, the Democrats are blamed for losing Cuba, and there's no chance ever of a free Havana, as Kennedy had promised. And a lot of the Cuban exiles living in Miami switched from being Democratic supporters to supporters of the Republican Party. Guys, take care. Thank you.